What's cracking? Welcome to Griffin and Bass. He's Griffin. I'm Bass. Before we get into everything regarding the Michigan State Western Michigan game, the Michigan Colorado State game, as well as our picks for the NFL's upcoming season, got to remind you guys to like and subscribe everywhere you can find us. That'd be Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, as well as full episodes on YouTube and DetroitSportsNation.com. All right, Ryan. Michigan State Spartans with a 35-13 victory over Western Michigan. It was 21-3 at half, which looked good. It was 21-13 after 3, which didn't look good. So before I get into everything that I liked and disliked about this game and our performance, I'll let you go first. What you like, what you dislike.
So I'll be probably a little bit more glass half full than I think most people are. What I liked was we got immediate contributions from new faces, right? We had Jeremy Bernard, I think is his name, the freshman wide receiver, scored Michigan State's first touchdown on his first college snap. So I'm sure that was cool for him. But Winman, obviously, 4 sacks, the Walter Camp Defensive Player of the Week. Brule had a sack as well. Barker caught a touchdown. Broussard and Berger were, kind of the main factors in the running game for Michigan State. So all of that I liked. It seemed like they hit on a couple of their transfer portals again. I thought Amir Speed played pretty well as well, although I don't know that the secondary was tested really a whole lot. And I think even Bogle might have gotten in there for a sack. So just like a ton of contributions from guys that we literally didn't see last year because they just weren't on the team. So I thought that was all really good. What I disliked is I thought Peyton Thorne came out, and I think he was just too juiced up. He was missing a lot of passes high. I know you have the numbers here, but, he only completed like 50% of his passes. And for a guy who we need to take the next step up if Michigan State wants to duplicate the kind of success that they had last year, and a guy who could be a top 10-ish quarterback in the country, he didn't play like it yesterday. And I know they had some big plays and he made some nice throws there, but it just wasn't consistent enough, especially against a team that is, weaker than a lot of the teams that he's going to face, especially a lot of the defenses that he's going to face in the Big Ten. We talked about Michigan. We, of course, saw what Michigan did against a bad opponent, but their defense looked really good. And then same thing, with Ohio State holding Notre Dame to 10 points. So Peyton Thorne's going to have to play better. I think he will. Again, I think it was his first game of the season going against his dad, kind of, in the home opener. And I think he just wanted to, kind of show up and show out. Obviously, he had the really ugly interception, and Michigan State 3 times when they were inside the 40-yard line. If they missed the field goal, which you didn't like because we knew there was a field goal kicking competition battle going on, and they came in there, they missed the kick, not even close. Thorne threw an ugly interception in the red zone, and then they had a fumble in the red zone as well. Now, they still scored 35 points, but if you finish, 2 of those drives and say you take one of the touchdowns off the board still, but you get 10 points, now you're looking at 45-13, which looks a lot better than 35.
No, definitely. And, some of that was our fault. Some of it was just, perfect opportunity. That fumble being one. Look, it was a heady play by the Western Michigan defensive player. Saw that Berger, right? Is Berger number 8? I can't remember who's 8, Berger or something.
Yeah.
Berger, on top of a pile of guys on his back, kind of trying to stretch for an extra yard there. The ball's just sitting right there. Dude comes in, pops it out. Real heady play by him. But that's not one you're going to see all that often, and you can bet that Berger's going to learn from that and make sure to do a little bit better job protecting the ball in weird
carry the
ways.
Ball around campus.
Yeah. I'm with you defensively. Absolutely. 7 sacks, 4 by, a UNLV transfer and Jacoby Winman. That was fantastic to see. I agree with you. Our secondary was not tested as much as it will be, obviously, for better offenses. And there's some more bad news on the defensive side that we'll talk about in a sec. Offensively, the running game looked good. Berger and Broussard looked good. You carried for over 5 yards per carry. You're doing the job we're asking you to do. Berger with a, career high now 120 yards for a touchdown on 16 carries. Also as well, Keon Coleman, the football stud that came in. It looked every bit his size, big body, big catches, 4 of them for 84 yards and a touchdown. And then there's Peyton Thorne. And at times he looked awful. The offense looked anemic to start the game. We got a total of 7 yards through our first 2 drives. Did not look good. The first down of the game came by Western Michigan when the Spartans got the ball first. That obviously should have been something that we had done first, and it just showed how bad our offense was to start. And then boom, 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 21 points, and now it's 21-3 at halftime, and we're looking rosy. And then the third quarter happened, and it's just back and forth. And yes, he completed 50% of his passes, which is not what we want. We would like a few more of those to be completed, but 4 of them were for touchdowns, only 1 for interception. I will take that ratio all day long. He wants to throw 1 pick, fine. As long as you throw 4 interceptions or 4 touchdowns to go with it, cool, not a problem. But we had higher expectations. Obviously, we played a little over/under last week before the game. Just got to take picks, and I think we both picked that his yardage total would be more than 233 yards. So there's more to be done, and I agree with you that he's playing his dad. His dad is not doing the defensive side of the ball, but he's still playing his dad. His dad's the offensive coordinator for Western Michigan now, moving his way up the ranks in college football. So he's going to be hyped up to play. And you can see the passes were a little high, a little long, the deep ball ones where, look, if you are out throwing Jaden Reed, you threw it too far. Like that boy's fat. He can get to it, but you threw it a little too far. Reed, not being able to come up with it, and Reed really didn't have much of a game. Again, that's, I think, more on Thorne. He got the ball around to plenty of other receivers. He didn't just focus on Reed, which I appreciate. And there was good to take away from this. And again, it is first week of college football. There's going to be sloppiness. And with transfers coming in, the way that Mel is, building this team through the transfer portal, there's going to need time for them to gel and get together to really become the team that we hope that they can become. The bad news, the defensive side of the ball, Darius Snow and Xavier Henderson. For Xavier, it's not as bad. Looks like he's going to be out for a little bit. Hopefully he's back by Washington. I don't know if we need him for the Akron game, but I think we're going to need him for the Washington game. Darius Snow, a nickelback linebacker that they really trust as far as pass coverage, has speed, able to get side to side, really a big part of what the defense could become, is out for the season. I still, for the life of me, cannot find exactly what the leg injury is, but it's got to be bad if they're saying the whole season. Mel Tucker doing the whole, coach speak of don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Maybe we'll see him to finish off the year. Maybe if it's in the, in the bowl game or whatever. But you're not going to see him for a while, if at all, this year. And that's a big loss for a secondary that was terrible, absolutely terrible last year. And so you need everything you can get to make this secondary better than it was last year. It's a big part of what we're going to do if we're going to have the season that we hope to have. The secondary has to hold up, and we're not that deep at safety. And so with Xavier Henderson being out for a couple of games, I'm hoping it's just one. Hoping it's just the one game this upcoming weekend against Akron, and he's back for when they travel across the country to play Washington. That's going to be tough for the an East Coast team to go all the way across out there and play. And we're going to need our best safety in the game if we're going to walk away with a victory. So for that side of it, it's not good news, especially with Darius Snow. It's a big loss for this Spartan defense that needs all the help they can get in the secondary.
They do need the help they can get. Again, they brought in speed. Ronald Williams, I thought, played well at the end of last year. So it looks a lot better with Xavier Henderson, because then you have 3 of the 4 spots that, again, at least me, glass being half full, I feel pretty good about if Xavier Henderson's back there. And he wasn't just a good player, he was a leader of the defense. I'm pretty sure he was a captain last year, and he was certainly the leader of the defense last year. And it was sort of surprising to see him come back to school. Not that I think he had some, tremendous NFL draft grade, but I think he certainly could have gotten drafted if he decided to enter his name, but he decided to come back to school. And I know that was a big boost for the secondary in the offseason. And now it's unknown, kind of whether you're going to get him back and for how, for how long, really. So it is a course of blow, but it'll be next man up. And again, they can rest against Akron, but against Washington is where you'll see the need for it. And then just hope you can have somebody else that, steps up, because if Henderson's not back by then they're going to have to.
And we got to give props to the man who did step up when Henderson went down, and that was Kendall Brooks. He had finished with 5 tackles and a forced fumble. He's a transfer to Michigan State from Division III North Greenville.
A hell of a smack.
Yeah. So for that, for that next man up to perform the way he did, again, it's against, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Western Michigan, but it's against lesser competition. This is not the Big Ten opponents that we're going to face. They're not a terrible team by any means, of course not. But it is against lesser competition. But when your defense goes out there and when a guy is an X man up and he comes out and does what you're asking and then some, you got to give him props for it. So I give props to Kendall Brooks for coming out and for doing the job and helping the Spartans get the victory. So 1-0 to start the year. So can't complain too much. Obviously, we got the win. We did cover, even if, it was a little disappointing at times and way too close that late in the game, but we did finish strong, and they, for lack of better terms, kept chopping and, dragged Western Michigan into the deep end. So 1-0 for the Michigan State Spartans, and in our next show, we will preview the upcoming game against Akron. Moving over to the Michigan Wolverines, and they did what everyone thought they should do against a Colorado State team that has a new coach, new quarterback, new everything, and just not ready to be at the level that Michigan is performing at. And Michigan ran all over them 51-7. I say ran all over them because they literally did run all over them. Cade McNamara was quite disappointing this past week, 9 for 18. Just 136 yards, and 61 of those 136 yards came on a screen. So really, can you give those 61 yards to the quarterback? I don't think so. I think you give that to the man who caught the ball and did all the work afterwards. So if you really want to look at it, realistically, 9 for 18 for 75 yards is it's not good. It's not good, Ryan, for a quarterback to be putting up numbers like that, especially when he is still technically in a battle for his position.
It's not, and he came out after the game and basically said the decision by the coaching staff to split up the week 1 and 2 starts was unexpected, which is not something you want, your captain to come out and say. And I think most people have surmised, and I've done the same thing, that maybe the quarterback competition was a little bit too much in Cade McNamara's head. He came out, he had 2 really bad passes early, and then he had the thing, it should have been picked. It wasn't, it dropped. I know Eric All fell on the play, but it was still, I still don't think it would have been completed. I still think it was a bad pass, even if All is, finishes his route cleanly or completes his route cleanly, I guess. And yeah, he looked bad. It didn't help that JJ came in and looked really good running the ball. I know he threw the ball 4 times for 30 yards. But again, he only threw it 4 times, but we know when he ran the ball, he was really effective. He had the touchdown run, 3 rushes for 50 yards. So he looked good. Harbaugh came out after the game and said he was electric. Then, I guess to be fair to Harbaugh, he came out and he said he thought Cade played really well. I don't know how he could think that, but Cade started really bad, and then he kind of settled down and played okay after that. And I think he started 1 for 6, and he finished 9 for 18. So he would have had to go 8 for his next 12, essentially against a really bad team, right? Let's call it what it is. Colorado State, really bad team. And for Colorado State, they just didn't have a shot against the Michigan defensive line. I know we talked about Michigan State had 7 sacks. Michigan at least had 7, and it seemed like they were racking them up, honest to God, every other play, because there are guys that are in the backfield every single time that Colorado State went to drop back to pass, and they passed a lot because they're an air raid offense. But if you're not giving your quarterback time to throw the ball, then you're not going to get much in terms of the air, because he's just not going to be able to get the ball out of his hands. So it was super impressive performance from the Michigan defense. And even though the Michigan offense scored 51 points, maybe 44, there might have been a pick 6 in there. But, even if they scored 40, 50 points, whatever it was, I still think the Michigan offense had some things that they could have improved on. Obviously, the quarterback play, and we'll see next week against Hawaii what JJ is able to do. And, we'll talk about that on our next show on Friday. But I don't know. I think there's something that's a little bit, to be desired as well. They looked better than Michigan State did against bad competition, but I think their competition was also worse, but they were still able to really just enforce their will.
Yeah, defensively, there was a touchdown on Michigan. It was a fumble recovery for touchdown. They did the same thing Michigan State did. They had 7 sacks. They had an interception. They had a fumble. They took theirs for the touchdown. defensively, yeah, they looked fantastic. They were just getting all over the place. Clay Millen, a redshirt freshman, uh, he actually completed a lot of his passes. They just didn't do much with them. But I mean, he was 16 for 20. So he was completing his passes, had a touchdown, had to pick that touchdown at the end of the game, basically to keep it, or not the very end of the game, but close enough where it kept it from being a shutout. That Michigan defense was all over the field. Again, it's a
How
good
many yards though? Because wasn't it 16 for like 80 yards or something?
137 yards. So
Oh, maybe I looked at it before the last run.
yeah,
But I know there was one point I looked and he was, I think, 12 or 15 for like 60 yards.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus.
yeah, there wasn't anywhere to go. The Michigan defense completely owned that game as they should have. And I agree with you. Colorado State, not a good team right now. It's a whole new everything, and that doesn't turn out to be good usually. When it's your first year trying it with a new head coach, you bring in your transfer quarterback from where he was the backup where you just were. Norvell was at Nevada, brought him with him from Nevada to Colorado State. They had Carson Strong last year in Nevada. So Clay Millen was not getting any playing time really with Carson Strong out on the field. So you have everything, and Michigan did what they're supposed to do. There was a reason it was a big spread. They covered that big spread. They were dominant defensively. They were dominant rushing the ball. Blake Corum, 13 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Donovan Edwards, 12 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. Adding that along with what you said, J.J. McCarthy did as well. Michigan rushed for 230-plus yards, 4 touchdowns. So that offensive line, which did win the Joe Moore Award last season for best O-line in the nation, they created the holes, and their running backs hit those holes. Their quarterbacks hit the holes. And they were able to really control the game on the ground. They controlled the game defensively. And, yeah, getting back to what we talked about with J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara, when we talked about it the first time, I kind of compared it to what we saw with Boyle and Blau. Now, this is a different situation. Obviously, these guys are fighting to start in college, not be a backup in the NFL. But when you know that competition is going on in the game that you are playing, sometimes that pressure gets to you. Boyle looked terrible. He was supposed to start the whole first half of that last game against Pittsburgh, and exactly what ended up happening here in the Michigan game kind of ended up happening in the Lions game, where Dan Campbell said, I don't know about this, and they threw in Blau. JJ, I think Cade got the entire first half of the game, right? I don't think JJ came in until the second half.
And I think JJ came, I think it was a play.
You're right.
I think it was a read option, and he ended up handing the ball.
Yeah, but not actually taking over for Cade. So
if I remember correctly.
You're putting a lot of pressure on these two guys who know they're fighting for this spot. I think it's hard if, no matter how much Cade should be the starter in Jim Harbaugh's mind, because team captain, led them to the Big Ten championship last year, all that stuff, and he looks apparently fantastic in practice. But in the game, he didn't look that good. And JJ just flat out looked better. And now JJ's going to get his chance with Hawaii. And if JJ goes out there in the first half and he throws for, 3 touchdowns and runs for 2 more, how do you possibly give this job to Cade McNamara?
Well, I mean, then I think, again, you have all of last year that these guys went. You had the practices with, I know Cade, again, in his post-game interview, said, I thought I had my best camp and my best spring, whatever it was. And that was backed up by other people who had seen Michigan practices there. Like, hey, Cade looks better than JJ. And we talked about it last week when we were discussing the quarterback competition. Like, if Cade just has a bad day at the office, does just lose the job for the season now? Like, I don't know that is necessarily so fair. But, you also have to put up or shut up. And we didn't think Cade would struggle at all against Colorado State, just like we don't think JJ is going to struggle at all against Hawaii. But yeah, man, it might be, I think there's certainly push in the media among the fan base for JJ, and he reposted or reshared that thing on Instagram that's talking about let go of your ego, that little cartoon illustration. So I don't know what's going on over there, but it would seem like I think JJ kind of knows he's on the heels of Cade right now, and I think there's a legitimate chance that he can win the job if he puts up numbers against Hawaii. And I'm sure Cade will come in the second half. But if it's anything like it was against Colorado State, where Michigan is up 30 at halftime, then are they just going to have Cade come in and hand the ball off, like they did with JJ, because JJ only threw 4 passes, and Cade obviously isn't the athlete that JJ is. He doesn't possess that skill set to run the ball 3 times from 50 yards. So if Cade comes in against the second half against Hawaii, like what's he gonna do? Are they gonna stick with their game plan and just run the ball? I kind of think they will. So then when he comes in, like what what are you gonna do? What's the point of even bringing him in there if you're not gonna let him, try and win the job back like with his arm?
Yeah, now you're throwing more pressure on JJ because instead of just going out and winning the football game, it's I've got to go out and outperform the other guy that has the same position I'm fighting for and win the football game. And so now it's more pressure on the kid. He might be, trying to do things that he shouldn't normally do, wouldn't normally do when he's thought of just trying to get the job done. Now it's get the job done and be exceptional while getting the job done so that I make it no question that I need to be the starting quarterback going forward. We will see how JJ responds to this, obviously, with the Hawaii game coming up this weekend. We will preview that on our next show. All right, Ryan, let's get over to the NFL. The season is upcoming this weekend. NFL football is here. Our Detroit Lions will be taking on and hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, and we will preview that game on our next show as well, along with the Michigan State and Michigan games. Today, we will be making our picks for the division winners, the conference championship game, and then the Super Bowl. So, Ryan, you want to go AFC first or NFC first?
We can do NFC.
All right, NFC first. So let's start in the NFC East. This is an interesting battle. It's kind of been everything that I've been hearing, everything I've been looking into. It's everyone who's been talking about it. It's a 2-team race in most people's minds. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants and the Redskins, Commanders, whatever the hell they call themselves now. A little bit behind those. Commanders could put up a fight, I think, personally, but I think it does come down to the 2 teams that I just mentioned. So that's in my mind, at least. You might come out and say the New York Giants are going to win the NFC East. I will be shocked if you do, but you might. So I'm going to go real quick. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have the edge over the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys lost Amari Cooper. They lost Connor Williams. They bungled that Randy Gregory situation and Keanu Neal as well. The Eagles added A.J. Brown to pair with Devontae Smith. So now you got, 2 kind of number ones there. And then, adding some defense there to Kobe Dean. The only question really for me with the Eagles is Jalen Hurts. But I have the same kind of questions I do for Dak Prescott. So with everything else around them, I think Hurts has a better team around him than Prescott has around him. And with the same questions for both quarterbacks for me, I'm going with who has a better team around him. I like what the Eagles have been doing. They've been kind of ahead of schedule, making the playoffs last year. They got absolutely blowed out by Tampa Bay Bucks, but no one expected them to make the playoffs last year, and they did, and they've added to that team. So I think the Eagles are winning the NFC East.
I think so too, and I really like the Eagles. I like some of the additions that they made on defense, and they also got Jordan Davis in the draft. But yeah, again, on defense, I think Jalen Hurts is probably better than most people think he is. I don't think he's great, but I like the Eagles a lot, actually. Now, their kind of Achilles heel has been the Cowboys for whatever reason. It seems like they're pretty good against everybody else in the NFC East, but when they face the Cowboys, for whatever reason, they can't just win those types of games. But I think they'll win enough games against everybody else, and they only play the Cowboys twice. So if you split with the Cowboys, I trust the Eagles to beat the other teams in the NFL more than I do trust the Cowboys. So I'm with you. I'm going to pick Philadelphia.
I said the only thing that questionable was the quarterback. That's not true. The running game is a little questionable in Philadelphia as well. I am not a big believer personally in Miles Sanders. And then he's also got to contend with Kenneth Gainwell. He's got to contend with Boston Scott. But their running situation does have some questions around it. And then the Cowboys situation, I mean, Zeke has just gone down and down and down every year after year. And Tony Pollard absolutely outperformed him last season. So they have their own running situations there in Dallas. But when your situation is our backup is outperforming the guy that's supposed to be the stud, that's a situation that you have to be, careful around, but it's not a bad situation because then you still have at least a good running game.
Yeah, and then I think it's a legitimate concern, but I still just like the rest of the Eagles roster overall. And I think you also have to take into account that Jalen Hurts can be a part of the running game, so they don't necessarily need some type of stud running back when your quarterback can move like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, NFC North. I went first on the East, so Ryan, you go first on the North.
The North, I think, is pretty easy. I think the Packers are going to win, and, they'll just win it until somebody else shows me otherwise. I think the Lions and Bears are both probably two of the worst teams in the NFL, so I'm discounting them right away. Sorry, Lions fans. And for the Vikings, I think their offense can be really good, but I still don't trust that defense, and I just trust Aaron Rodgers, obviously, more than I trust Kirk Cousins, even if Aaron Rodgers, we have some questions about what type of weapons they're going to have on offense. I'd rather have questions at like wide receiver than I would questions on defense, because I think the Packers have one of the better defenses in the NFL, and they still have the MVP of the NFL and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon to kind of shore up a really good running game. And Jones can be effective in the passing game as well. So I think the Packers will kind of run away with this division once again.
I 100% agree with everything that you said. They've won 8 of the last 11 years. Their defense, which has already been improving, they improved it even more with Jair Alexander. Rashawn Gary added as edge rusher, nose tackle Kenny Clark. And they have the best quarterback in the division by far. He might be the best quarterback in football. His weapons are questionable. Devontae Adams is gone. Your wide receiver is now Alan Lazard, the man who used to be Sammy Watkins, second-round rookie Christian Watson, an aging Randall Cobb. It's just, it's not good. And their old line is not 100%. David Bakhtiari.
They love MVS, don't they? Marquez Valdez.
Maybe.
Not that that's some great, hey,
right.
You got Marcus Valdez-Scantling. But
it is, and they don't have,
no, he's on the Chiefs. Never mind.
Okay, I was gonna say, and Equinemius is not there either, right? St. Brown?
I don't think so.
I think he moves on as well.
Even worse.
So yeah, I mean the weapons are questionable as far as who he's throwing to. Yes, they have a two-headed monster running back, like you mentioned. Again, I agree with you. The Lions and the Bears are not going to be in the mix at all. Sorry, Lions fans, we're just not there yet. The question comes down to the Vikings. They have shown glimpses of being a good team, but they have not put it all together with Kirk Cousins. Now the old regime is out, new regime is in, and they decided to keep Cousins. Cousins puts up good numbers. I understand why you kept Kirk Cousins, and he has weapons around him. If Cook can stay healthy, there's a lot of questions into the Minnesota Vikings, but they are the only team in the North that can dethrone the Green Bay Packers for the division. They can do it. It's not a runaway for me, especially with all the weapons missing now with Green Bay, but they still have Aaron Rodgers, who can do a whole lot with a whole little. And he has a little right now. He doesn't have a lot right now. A couple of these guys might turn into a lot, but right now we don't see them as being a lot. So he's got to work with what he's got and make the most of it. He's good enough to do that. The Vikings have the pieces to overtake all the problems the Packers have. They just got to put it together to do it. I'm with you 100%. I think the Packers win the division still this year, with Minnesota nipping at their heels and the Lions and Bears at the bottom of the NFC North. All right, NFC South. I'll go first on this one. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The New Orleans Saints might cause some problems, but that's it in the division. Baker Mayfield, is he a step up a quarterback in Carolina? A little bit, I think so, but the Panthers still have issues, and until Christian McCaffrey shows me that he can stay healthy for a whole season, I'm not going to believe it. And the Atlanta Falcons are not great, Bob. So the Bucs are the team to pick. Their defense returns everybody, basically, and when healthy, they're one of the best defenses in football. They have issues offensively, not with the weapons. You got Brady to Godwin, you got Brady to Evans, you got Brady to Fournette. They added Russell Gage to come in. They also added the man formerly known as Julio Jones to come in. Their O-line, over half of it retired.
Julio.
We'll see. Their O-line, half of it retired or signed elsewhere, or they're injured. And Brady is not mobile, never was, and he certainly is not at 45 years old, and he hates being hit. When he gets hit, his play suffers tremendously. See both New York Giants Super Bowl victories if you want examples of this. But so unless the Saints are just clicking on all cylinders, Michael Thomas is back to being Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara is back to being Alvin Kamara. And Chris Olave just comes out the gate smoking hot. And then obviously Jameis Winston being the good Jameis Winston, not the bad Jameis Winston, then the Saints can do something. They have a good defense. They added to that defense when they brought home the hometown kid, Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. they can do something. But I think it's the Bucks division to lose.
It's definitely their division to lose. And again, I kind of go back with what I said about the Packers. Is I think the Bucks have a really good defense. Where I think the division actually overall might be a little bit better than people expect. I expect the Saints to be pretty good. I think the Panthers, now that 7 teams make it per division, like I can see the Panthers sneaking in a wild card if Baker plays like he did, 2 years ago in Cleveland, and not last year when he messed up a shoulder. But if he has a healthy shoulder, Christian McCaffrey's there, DJ Moore, like they have some pieces to be a pretty good team. And then, the Falcons are probably going to be the worst team in the division, but they do add Drake London, who I know is going to start the year hurt. You have Marcus Mariota at quarterback, and I don't know. Like I just no, for whatever reason, I think the Falcons can be a little bit better. Now, better might be 5 wins instead of 2, but I think they can be a little bit better than maybe they're getting some credit for. But I'm with you on the Bucks. I think the weapons that Brady has are going to allow him to not get hit so much because he's going to be able to get the ball out fast. I expect Julio Jones to have a really good year, with essentially probably one-on-one coverage all the time and with Tom Brady throwing it to him, because you still have Mike Evans, obviously, you still have Chris Godwin. You bring in Rashad White in the running game, Leonard Fournette, who I might have had like doubts about him as a running back a couple years ago, but he's proven to be good, right? It just might be a guy who's actually good, who maybe I didn't think was good before, but he's a pretty solid running back, and he can do a lot of things for the Buccaneers. And I think they'll be able to kind of scheme around not having an offensive line that is, dominant, right? And then I think their defense will more than enough make up for it, and I think their offense will put up a lot of points. So I still like the Buccaneers a lot this year, and I like them to win this division.
It is going to be very interesting watching Brady to Julio Jones, because, I mean, to have the smarts of Julio Jones, the hands and the size, obviously, is what helps separate him from everybody else during his career. And now Brady having that kind of a weapon, who, you're right, will most likely be single covered, because you still got to deal with Mike Evans. You still got to deal with Chris Godwin. So there's just too many weapons to be able to double cover everybody. Someone's got to be single covered there. And it's most likely going to be Julio, because he hasn't shown it as of late. He didn't show it in Tennessee, really. He didn't show it the last couple of years in Atlanta. So there's going to be doubts on him being able to still do it. They're going to focus on the guys who've been doing it. Mike Evans has been doing it year in and year out for years. Chris Godwin, when healthy, is one of the best wide receivers in football as well. I 100% agree. It's going to be interesting to see, and it could be something that they could absolutely take advantage of. But Brady going to have to get rid of that ball quick, because that O-line is not good right now, and unless some things happen to change it, it's not going to be good for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see, and that defense, definitely one of the best as long as they can stay healthy. All right, NFC West, Ryan, who you got?
So for the NFC West is, I think, far and away the best division in the NFC. I don't think it's even really close. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to go against the Rams, but with Matt Stafford's kind of mysterious elbow injury, I don't know how hot they're going to come out the gate. And I believe in Trey Lance, so I'm actually going to take the Niners to win the division. But, I mean, you could make a case for 3 of these 4 teams certainly getting into the playoffs. Obviously not Seattle anymore, but the Cardinals, the Niners, the Seahawks should all be pretty good. And I think the margin for error at the top of this division is going to be razor thin. I don't know. I just like I like the Niners, as long as I don't know what's going on with Stafford's elbow. And, I know the Rams have a great defense, but the Niners have a great defense as well, and they both have weapons on offense. It's just a little bit different. I do really like the addition of Allen Robinson for the Rams. I don't know. I'll just pick the Niners to be different than most people, because I feel like so far I've gone all chalk.
Well, yeah, the West is definitely the most compelling in the NFC by far. I think it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. The 4 being the Seattle Seahawks. 3 for me is the Arizona Cardinals. I just don't believe in Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. I just don't. I don't believe in them getting the job done when it counts. I haven't seen it yet, so I have nothing to go off of that tells me to believe in it. Everything that I've seen the last 2 years has been, don't believe in it, they crumble. So until they prove otherwise, that's what my take is going to be on the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, they added some nice offensive weapons, but no DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, for the first 6 weeks. That doesn't hurt them for the playoffs. It hurts them for the first 6 games, and it might keep them out of contention in the NFC West if they don't do well in those first 6 games. And now you've got 1 and 2. And it's, of course, what you said. It's the Niners and it's the Rams. The Niners, I have them second in this because of Trey Lance, actually. I'm the opposite of you. And I'm seeing from San Francisco that they're with me. There's a reason Jimmy G is still in San Francisco. Trey Lance has not impressed as much as they thought he should. And so Jimmy G is still there in case Trey Lance is not ready. And that's why Trey Lance is not happy that Jimmy G is still there. That question is going to linger until Trey Lance proves otherwise. He hasn't had a chance to yet. Preseason doesn't count for anything. Regular season, we're going to find out what Trey Lance and this offense is about. But as far as Super Bowl ready team, it's the 49ers. You have every piece you need to win a Super Bowl with that team, except quarterback. And that question will be answered by Trey Lance this season with Jimmy G, who's not a great quarterback. They went to a Super Bowl and should have won the Super Bowl. Their defense let them down late, and their offense let them down very late to let Kansas City come back into that game and win that Super Bowl. They were very close, obviously, last year as well as getting to the Super Bowl NFC Championship game, lost in the last little bit to the Rams. They have everything you need, running back wide, receiver wise, tight end wise, defensive, offensive. They have everything. It's the quarterback. And until Trey Lance shows that he's ready, I'm going to question it. And then there's the Rams, Super Bowl champions. Matthew Stafford finally got his ring. Aaron Donald finally got his ring. Cooper Kupp. They went and added some big pieces in Super Bowl champion Bobby Wagner. They added Allen Robinson, who's another catching threat to replace Robert Woods or Odell Beckham Jr., depending on which way you're looking at it. Either way, they got a big body in to come catch passes. Higbee coming back from injury is a tight end that Stafford liked to use as well. You know what you're getting with the quarterback. He can be mostly great. He can do some irritating things.
You don't, though.
Well,
his elbows are...
his elbow was hurt last year too. Apparently, according to him, his elbow wasn't good at the end of last season, and they went and won the Super Bowl on it. They beat the Tampa Bay Bucks. They beat the San Francisco 49ers. They ended up winning the Super Bowl against the Bengals. His elbow wasn't great last year, apparently, as well. We will find out. You might be right. That elbow concern might be bigger than I'm making it. Now, I'm not going to make it anything until Stafford and the Rams make it something. So I'm under the belief that he is pretty close to 100%. Defensively, Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald. He's an absolute beast. And they added some pieces, Bobby Wagner, chief among them, to make this defense a little bit better than it was last year. Again, another team just like the Niners, they have all the pieces. And in my mind, they also have the quarterback. So that's why I have the Rams a little bit above the Niners. These two teams hate each other. They've had good battles. The Niners continue to win these battles in the regular season. The Rams were able to exercise some demons last year in the NFC Championship game. So it's going to be between these two teams. I will not be surprised either way, obviously, who wins this division. I think they're both making the playoffs regardless, barring injuries, of course. But if everything stays healthy and good, I expect both the Rams and the Niners to be heavily involved in the playoff mix, and maybe the Cardinals as well. All right, AFC side of the ball. Let's start with the East. This one, to me, the no-brainer, it's the Buffalo Bills. There's no glaring weaknesses on this team. On paper, they could be even better than last year's team when you add Von Miller, who's not the Von Miller that everyone makes him out to be, but he still garners attention, still helps the D-line get the job done. They added O.J. Howard at tight end. They added cornerback Khair Elam. They have everything you need. Running game situation needs a little bit of work. It just hasn't been great. Singletary hasn't been great. I think James Cook, the rookie that they got in the draft out of Georgia, who's a little bit more pass heavy than he is run heavy. But when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, I think that's going to play into their strengths even more to help the running game. I think he'll end up being, one of the main focal points by the halfway point of the season and be a big reason that they're involved as late as they are in the postseason. Yes, the Dolphins have made some improvements. I need to see them on the field before I give them any kind of hype. The Jets, some improvements as well. Still the Jets, not going to believe in them. And the Patriots, they're in their version of a rebuild under Belichick, where they're towing the line of a playoff contending team, but they're not good yet. They're not great yet. They still need some work. Mac Jones still needs work. The weapons still need work. So I think it's the Bills, and I think it's a runaway with the Bills.
I think it's a runaway too. And I like the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will make the playoffs as a wild card team, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills were the overall number one seed in the AFC, because they have the the team certainly to do it. Their schedule is a lot harder than it was last year. Their schedule last year, I think it was like the easiest schedule maybe in the NFL. And this year it's going to be significantly harder, but you still have a quarterback who's probably the favorite to win the MVP. I think the Bills are even the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and they are a large, large favorite to win this division. And I think there's just a reason for that. I believe in the defense. The running game, like you mentioned, is a concern, but they do have weapons. They have Gabriel Davis, they have Stephon Diggs, and Josh Allen can be part of the running game as well. So you don't necessarily need maybe a pair of great running backs when your quarterback can do what Josh Allen can, especially in the red zone. And then I just think it's a really well put together team overall, and I would pick the Bills to win this division every day of the week.
All right, who you got in the AFC North? Let's go to a division where there's actually a challenge.
So the AFC North, I think will be really good as well. Obviously you have the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers, not so much anymore, and then the Browns probably not so much. Now that Deshaun Watson's going to be suspended for all of those games, but I think that Ravens are going to win this division. They were in the driver's seat to win it last year. Lamar Jackson got hurt, and then they didn't win any of the games that Lamar didn't play. So, and it's a team that honestly, they just dominate the regular season. And I think they will again. Of course, the Bengals, the reigning AFC champions, are going to have something to say about it because I think they'll be really good this year. But I do like the Ravens. They can't have as bad injury luck as they had last year. Not just Lamar Jackson, but last year, all of the running backs died. All of their wide receivers, weren't healthy either. And then they had some injuries on defense. And the Baltimore defense, if healthy, it should be really good. Now, of course, you have J.K. Dobbins coming back for the running game, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews in the passing game. So while it's not world-beating offensive weapons for the style of offense that they run, they should be really good. And then even Lamar this year, I know he's put on some weight and added some strength, so maybe it'll help him take some of those hits and not get hurt. So I would pick the Ravens to win this division, and I think it's going to be really close with them and the Bengals.
I think it's going to be close as well, but I'm leaning the other way, and I got the Bengals. Burrow and Chase are just ridiculous. You add Higgins and Boyd to the mix, and you have arguably the best trio of receivers in the NFL. Joe Mixon has an offense that he can shine in. And then the big glaring weakness on their offense was that offensive line. Well, they went and added Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and Lael Collins.
Yeah.
So they solidified an entire side of their line that was bad before. And their defense was already good. And then you add Daxton Hill, you add Cam Taylor-Britt, you add Zachary Carter in this draft. So they addressed the defensive side of the ball. To me, what separates them from the Ravens, quarterback play, they're completely different, obviously. Burrow is mash the ball down the field, and Lamar is use my athleticism any way possible, whether that's escaping and throwing, escaping and running, whatever they need me to do. But now we've got the contract issue with Lamar Jackson. And you're hearing the wide receivers, people talk about the wide receivers don't want to play with Lamar Jackson in that offense. So there's this stuff going on around, and the Bengals don't have that stuff. And so I'm wondering if that stuff's going to play a factor into how the team performs this year for Baltimore, how Lamar performs this year, and what the Ravens front office is going to do about it. There's just questions there that I don't think Cincinnati has to deal with. And I think they're very closely matched teams as far as who's better, who's best. I agree with you that the Steelers and the Browns are not there. The Steelers could surprise a lot of people. They're still the Steelers. They have a defense. And if, Trubisky balls out, then, the Steelers could very much be in the mix. They have the weapons needed. Najee Harris is one of the best young running backs in football, and they got some good wide receiver play as well. They could very much be in the mix. The Browns, I'm sorry, I just don't believe Jacoby Brissett is going to lead the Browns to a playoff winning record. So until they get their quarterback play under control, they're out of the mix for me. So, but I think it's going to be a close battle as well, just like you do. I'm going the other side, though. I got the Bengals winning the AFC North. AFC South, to me, this is the same battle, different year, Ryan. It's been the same thing last year, was the year before that. It's the Colts or the Titans. Take your pick. Which one, who you think, flip a coin if you need to. Indy added Matty Ice to a team with a strong offensive line. Jonathan Taylor, arguably the best back in all of football. An improved defense that added all-pro cornerback Stephon Gilmore. The Tennessee Titans, they lost A.J. Brown, but they added Robert Woods. Tannehill was a little shaky at the end of the year last year. Derrick Henry obviously missing all those games did not help matters. He's healthy this year and will hopefully get back to his Derrick Henry way. That's why I say arguably, because the other arguable best back in football is in the same damn division as Jonathan Taylor, and it's Derrick Henry. So it really is flip a coin to this one. I've leaned towards Tennessee the last few years we've done this, Ryan. And I want to lean towards them again. The problem with the Colts, I don't believe in any of their wide receivers, really. Like I don't see any that just,
What?
you know, I don't believe in it that they have a great wide receiver group. Jonathan Taylor is great. And having Matt Ryan is going to open up things for Taylor that Carson Wentz failed to do last year in the passing game. I think Matt Ryan still has enough left in the tank. It's really a toss up to me between the Titans and the Colts. I'm really not 100% sure either way. I know it's going to be one of those two teams. Houston is going to improve, but they're too far behind. In Jacksonville, they're at the bottom of the cellar. They're going to improve a little bit, not having to deal with Urban Meyer as their head coach. But I really think it's the Colts or the Titans. And I guess I'll stick with what's worked and say it's the Titans.
I mean, if you don't believe in the Colts wide receivers room, though, what'd you say about the Titans? They lost A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
They got Robert Woods.
Oh, okay.
That's enough.
So the Colts have Michael Pittman, who's much better than Robert Woods is, and I'll pick the Colts, man. I think Matt Ryan is a huge improvement from Carson Wentz, and I think he could have not quite the year that Stafford had last year, but I think Matt Ryan can still put up some really good numbers and thrive in an offense that is going to be balanced with the running game, and that he'll have the ability to throw the ball a little bit and get some guys open. So I am big on the Colts this year. I think they'll win this division. Now, the Titans are always there. They're well coached. Obviously, they have Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback. And if he gets injured, you have Malik Willis, who kind of brings you a different aspect of quarterbacking. But I think the Titans will be good. I think last year's number one overall seat that they had was kind of a fluke, but hey, they still had it. You can't take it away from them. They were, of course, able to win some games, but I think the Colts are just a little bit better. I think the improvement at quarterback is huge for them, and I think last year defenses were focusing on Jonathan Taylor, certainly towards the end of the year as he was, leading the league in rushing. But I think even this year it's going to be a bigger focus for defense, and it will allow Matt Ryan to just perform better than did last year in Atlanta and give the Colts really their best quarterback play that they've seen since Andrew Luck, which I guess wasn't so long ago, but it is what it is.
Man, you just gonna disrespect Phillip Rivers like that, huh?
Yeah. It's garbage.
All right. And then the AFC West. Ryan, hit him.
So the AFC West, the best division in the NFL, and it's not particularly close. All four of these teams, honestly, God, you can make a case that they're going to make the playoffs. I'm going to stick with the tried and true method, though, man. I'm still going to go with the Chiefs. I think, of course, they have Patrick Mahomes. I think the defense is pretty good. I think they have the best offensive line in this division. And their running game, you want to see more, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been a disappointment. They brought in Isaac Pacheco. They have J.D. McKissick or Jerick McKinnon, I'm sorry, for the third down work.
I do that.
Of course, they lost Tyreek Hill, but they still have Travis Kelce, brought in Marquez Valdes-Scantling, brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, and I think it can actually be almost a benefit. So like when Stafford lost Calvin and they were on the Lions, people thought Stafford would kind of fall off a cliff. But that's not what happened, right? The offense actually got better because they were able to kind of spread the ball around more. And I think that a similar situation can happen in Kansas City, not just because the weapons are different and it's not, you lose Tyreek Hill, you become better. Like, that's nonsense. But I do think the offensive line is so much better that you're just going to give Pat Mahomes, who I still think might just be the best quarterback ever, time to do the things that he does. And maybe because we've seen Mahomes not win the Super Bowl for 2 years in a row, people are starting to jump on like he is an overrated train. I'm not on that at all. I still think Mahomes is great. I still think he's the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think this year he will prove that. And I think the Chiefs are going to win the division.
I was leaning that way as well. You know, damn toughest division probably in all of football, definitely in the West. Between Mahomes, Wilson, Herbert, and Carr, by far the best quarterback group for a division. But the Chiefs, I don't know. I don't know if they're able to do what this is going to sound ridiculously stupid. I don't know if Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to be able to do what Stafford and the Lions did. But
Yeah, you're right. It is not stupid.
I'm stupid. Tyreek Hill brings a different element to the game, obviously. That I mean, just unbelievable to take top off of defenses the way that he can with the speed that he has. But it's not the offense that I'm so much worried about. I am worried about the running game because they really haven't solidified that. Edwards-Helaire has not stepped in and become what they thought he would become coming out of LSU with how explosive he was in college. It just hasn't transitioned to the NFL that easily for him. So the running game there is questionable. Defensively is where I have the real questions for the Chiefs. I just think that they haven't made the adjustments needed to help the offense win games when the offense is going to be able to put up 40 points a game, no problem. But they have a defense that is going to leak like a sieve as well that I've seen. And so that's the issues that I have. Meanwhile, the Chargers went in this offseason where they had a top 5 scoring offense, but they had a defense that allowed the 4th most points in all of football. And they went and got Khalil Mack. They went and got J.C. Jackson. They went and got these guys to help shore up a defense, to help an offense that has already proven it. Last year, they went 9-8. They are going to be much better this year. Herbert is going to be much better. The offense is going to be more in sync. And I think the defense is going to be the biggest difference, which is why I'm even shocked to say it. I have the Los Angeles Chargers winning the AFC West. It's going to be a hell of a battle between them and the Chiefs. Denver and Las Vegas are going to be right there. Denver, there's too many questions. You lost your head coach, your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your quarterback. The quarterback's an upgrade, no question. There's no question Russell Wilson coming in is an upgrade from quarterback that they've had for the last decade. It's everything else around him that I have questions about and I need to see. And the Raiders, Devontae Adams is great. It's a great piece to add to an offense that already had some good offensive weapons. I need to see it. I need to see it from Carr when it counts. I need to see it from Carr when it matters. And I just haven't seen it yet. And so there's no reason that you can make an argument for all 4 of these teams to be in the mix. I think the two ahead above are the 2 that we're talking about. I think the Chargers made the offseason moves needed to really be in the mix. They saw the glimpses last year of what they could become, and they wouldn't help the team become what they can become. And the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They've been doing this. We know what they bring to the table. So there's no reason to think they can't do it again. I'm just going to go outside the box here and cause an argument and say that it's going to be the Chargers instead of the Chiefs. But I agree. I think 3 teams from this division are going to be in the postseason when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the biggest knock, I guess, against the Broncos would be I don't trust in their offensive line. And Russ doesn't have the mobility that he did when he was winning the Super Bowl with Seattle. And he's not a statue back there, and definitely better than the quarterbacks that they've had in the past, like you mentioned. But I think the offensive line can still be a big issue for Denver, especially with some of the fronts that they're going to face in the AFC West and then just in the AFC in general.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content.